I don't see Candace yet, but you do, Jennifer. Candace, it's all yours.
Great. Good evening, everyone. Good morning to those of you. Good afternoon, tuning in from the Americas. We are thrilled to have you here and thank you for your patience. Despite 2 years of Zoom, my computer's still giving me some trouble. But we are so thrilled to have you here joining us for this Arizona candidate event. Thank you to the participants, especially for making time out of your busy campaign schedules to speak to your overseas voters. I cannot emphasize just how important the overseas vote is as a constituency, particularly in states like Arizona, where we know that the overseas votes that came in, and voters like you, made the difference in getting Joe Biden and Kamala Harris elected. So as we approach the 2022 midterms, which are just now over 2 months away, which I'm sure everyone on this call can't believe that it's already that close, our votes and the work that we do in the next few weeks are going to be critical. So I thank every single one of you for being here today to take an interest in who and what is on the ballot, and a particular thanks to the candidates for also taking an interest in Democrats abroad and your overseas constituents. With that, I'll toss it back over to the Arizona team, who also deserves a very big round of applause for organizing today's event. Thank you for pulling this together. Appreciate the work that you're doing in getting Americans to vote from abroad.
Thank you very much, Candace, but I think we're going to go first to our state's team coordinator, Jennifer. Did you want to say a couple of words?
Thank you so much for joining us, everyone. The work of the state teams has been one of the new things that Democrats Abroad has approached this year, and we really are very proud that we have had so many candidates come and speak to us and that they value your votes from abroad, and we are so thankful for them for giving us this time. And one of the most important messages that we can give this year is that Democrats Abroad can deliver the margin of victory in every single race across the country, because our voters vote in every single congressional district all the way down the ballot. And we want to make sure that our votes make it home and that we are electing everyone from the bottom of the ballot to the top of the ballot. And thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you, Jennifer. My name is Katie Solon. I'm one of the co-leads of the Arizona State Team of Democrats Abroad. And we formed this year. Our main task has been to urge Arizona voters abroad, Arizonans abroad, to become voters, to get their ballots and be ready to vote both in the primary and in the general coming up in November. We've also worked to inform our members about legislative action and inaction in Arizona, about the candidates and about the issues, and we are determined to turn out more overseas voters in a midterm than ever before. We absolutely must send Mark Kelly back to the Senate. We've got 4 Democratic House seats. We need to defend a little tougher each one of them because of redistricting. We have Ann Kirkpatrick's seat to retain with our first guest who's coming on in just a minute. And then we have a seat that we can flip in the House. So everything is at stake in Arizona when it comes to control of the Senate and the House. We also, of course, have a governor's race, if you haven't heard about it. We have a Secretary of State race, and we have an Attorney General. And these candidates are running against some of the most extremely unqualified extremists in America. There was a list that came out yesterday actually saying that of the 10 most dangerous officials or candidates in America, as far as destroying democracy, 2 of them are running for high office in Arizona. Every bad bill that has been passed in any state in the last year, there's a replica in Arizona. We've had a trifecta with the governor and Republican control of both houses by 1 seat only, and they have passed an amazing array of bad bills that when Katie Hobbs takes office as governor and we flip the legislature with some of the people that are coming on at the end of this program winning their state legislative seats, then we're going to reverse this nightmare legislation. So happy that you're with us today. If you want to join the Arizona State team, you don't have to be an overseas Arizona voter. We'll take anybody. Just write to us at az@democratsabroad.org. And now, before we get started, I see I have 1 minute to talk about really the main reason we're all here, how to vote from abroad. It's very simple, but it's different than voting in the US. And I know most of the people on this call or listening to this call have already done this. They've requested their ballot, but don't zone out, because you need to listen to this and you need to think about who else you can help to get their ballot, because there's a lot more of us not voting, not us on this call, overseas Americans, than are voting. There's just a tremendous amount of people out there that don't know they can vote and don't know how. So it's 5 easy steps. Go to votefromabroad.org and fill out the form to request your ballot. Second step, make sure that that request was received by your county after you have sent it in. Send it in by email. The third step is to receive your ballot, your blank ballot. And you want to get it by email because you've requested to get it by email. And as an overseas voter, you have a right to get it by email. The fourth step is to download it, vote it all the way down. If you get a full ballot, make sure you vote it from the top to the bottom. We're going to talk more about that later in the program. Send it in by the fastest way possible. In Arizona, we're really lucky. We're one of the 30 states or so that can send in their voted ballots electronically, either by email or secure online upload. And please use one of those methods no matter where you live, because many of us live in countries where the mail is reliable. More of us live in countries where the mail is not reliable, and nobody can count, I'm sorry, on the US Postal Service anymore. So send your Arizona ballot back by upload or email, and then track the ballot to make sure it got there. And my time is up. And so we're coming back to voting, don't worry, and we're coming back to helping other people vote. So with this, I'm going to turn over to my co-lead of the Arizona State team, Avi Walls, and a constituent of our first guest. So Avi, take it away.
Okay, I unmuted. All right, it's my great honor and privilege to introduce Kirsten Eng. She's an environmental attorney, a former state senator, and a mom who has spent years fighting to restore funding for public schools and to protect Arizona's natural resources and to make our community safer. After graduating from Brown University and Northwestern University School of Law, Kirsten worked in the Massachusetts Attorney General's office and for the US Environmental Protection Agency. She has taught at Tulane, Harvard, and now at the University of Arizona. She continued to make attacks on education and on public lands by the Arizona state legislature has motivated her to run for office. As a state senator, she has fought against attempts to cut education, work to fully fund our public schools and universities, and for affordable community college, workforce development, and technical education programs. She's led the legislative fight to protect carbon-free energy rules and safeguard Arizona's water. She has worked across the aisle for criminal justice reform. My true honor to introduce my next Congresswoman. Kirsten, take it over.
Thank you so much, Avi, for that wonderful introduction. And thank you, Candace and Katie and Jennifer, for setting this up. It really is quite a privilege to talk to all of you out there abroad. And thanks for all of you for showing up. And I don't know whether or not we're getting you in the middle of the night or what. The times I've had the opportunity to live abroad for several chunks of time as a result of my academic work. I remember, I was always being asked to get up at 3 a.m. to join a Zoom call. So I'm sure that might be the case with many of you. So thank you so much for doing this. And it is incredible that we can all be together, even though we are so far apart. in terms of distance, but I think in terms of the way we look at our politics and look at what we want here in the United States and specifically in Arizona, I think a lot of us are on the same page. And we're really, really concerned about the incredible extreme right-wing direction that the Republicans have taken. And we're really trying to get out the word of the alternative that the Democrats are pursuing in terms of working for people here. So Kirsten Eng, and you heard a little bit of my background from that introduction. I do teach at the University of Arizona. I'm a law professor there. I've been an environmental attorney my whole career, but it was really basically with my mom hat that got me to run for public office for the first time. In 2016, I ran for our state legislature here in Arizona. And served 2 terms in the Arizona House and then went to the Arizona Senate. And it was really about fighting for funding for our public schools, a real critical issue for K through 12, also for universities, and also for career and technical education, which we have underfunded as well. And that will be a high priority for me to do what I can in Congress on those issues. I am running for what is now known as Congressional District 6. This is basically Congresswoman Ann Kirkpatrick's district, many years before, Gabby Gifford's district. And the big news is basically as a result of the redistricting that occurred and was finalized last January, the lines of this district have changed. It's now been made into a highly competitive district. It is a district that President Biden won by just 400 votes. So that's how close it is and how competitive it is. And yet it is a must-hold seat for the Democrats. It is critical to making sure that we keep that margin so we can keep the majority in the United States House of Representatives. So I am laser focused on several really high priority issues for the voters here in this district. Number one, protecting women's fundamental freedom to make their own healthcare decisions. In response to the Supreme Court repealing Roe versus Wade and us having here in Arizona very draconian laws that the Republicans are trying to reinstitute back from 1901 that criminalizes abortion. This is I believe, a fundamental right as a mom of a 17-year-old, as a woman myself. This is just such a critical issue. And we know that the Republicans are not just focused on abortion, that they're trying to undercut the whole sort of separation between our private lives and ability to control those private lives and the government by suggesting that the Supreme Court, suggesting that we should rethink whether or not people have the right to use contraceptives or same-sex marriage. So issues that we are entitled to and have been on law on the books for decades is now being potentially overturned by the extremists that have taken over our Supreme Court. I'm a law professor. It's an extremist Supreme Court, as well as our politics. So that's number one on my platform. Number two, I am an environmental attorney. Arizona and across the world, we are facing the impacts of climate change. In Arizona, it's really showing up in the headlines in terms of a mega drought, largely being driven by climate change, which is seeing huge drops in the Colorado River, groundwater tables, wildfires, extreme heat. These are all critical issues to our future, and we just can't burden our next generation with dealing with these issues. We need to do something about it now. And I'm very happy that the US Congress and President Biden signed the Inflation Reduction Act, which will have so many resources for renewable energy. Great boon to us here in Arizona, but we need to continue working on this issue, and especially addressing drought and learning from, you all are some of our connections to other countries that are also dealing with this issue. And it can be a back and forth. We can learn from them. They can learn from us as we tackle a growing, warmer world, but also try to take advantage of the opportunities economically here in Arizona with so many sunny days. So making Arizona the powerhouse that it can be in terms of clean energy is another top priority. Guaranteeing educational opportunity for everyone. As an educator myself, I know how important that is and how critical it is to our future. And finally, protecting some of the important programs that have made our country strong and secure, like Social Security and Medicare, that provide retirement security, financial security to older Americans, and also healthcare. And frustratingly, the Republicans are fighting all of these things. So if we really want to renew the American dream here in Arizona, we need to protect all of these things against the extremist Republicans. I am running against an opponent, Mr. Juan Ciscomani, who, he's a foot soldier for the Republican Party. And as we just heard, we've got really extreme candidates that are trying to dismantle these rights and expectations and take our country backwards. We can't let them win. We need people like me that are going to fight for the next generation and for our rights. So I'm actually up here right now in the Democratic headquarters in Safford, Arizona, Graham County, and spending the day getting to know some of our rural Arizonans here, which is a big part of this district. So if we've got time for questions, love to have those. Just thank you so much for having me.
Yes, that's me. Hi, thank you so much for your introduction. That was fantastic. I'm even more excited to vote for you this coming November. My name's Corey Lemke. I live in Seoul, South Korea. It's 2 a.m. here. I'm a proud Wildcat alumni and AZ6 voter. Again, really looking forward to voting for you in November. Just because this is a Democrats Abroad event, our first question, we do this with everybody, but the Americans Abroad Caucus in the US House exists to discuss and help on important issues facing overseas Americans, citizenship, immigration, taxation. Will you join the Americans Abroad Caucus once you're elected to stay in the loop, keep us in the loop?
Absolutely. And it sounds like this is a great way to stay on top of the issues that affect Americans abroad. And I would be more than happy to join that. And if you can get up at 2 in the morning, I can certainly join this caucus to learn about your issues.
Sure, appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, you kind of summed up the 3 issues, your campaign is kind of pushing and your platform. Can you tell us what's motivating, as you talk to AZ6 voters, what is motivating people on the ground? What kind of issues?
I have to say the repeal of Roe versus Wade, while it was expected that we might see some backtracking on that issue, I think that was a real wake-up call of just how radical the Supreme Court has been with the Trump appointees and how they are willing to just undo people's lives. I see it also as just a real slap in the face to women. I respect women to make their own healthcare decisions. And this seems to say, no, you can't make it. We're going to make it for you. And it's just really critical. And it's a whole sort of frame of mind that is that we're now fighting against. And we got to stand strong against it. I do think it's really motivating a lot of people. And just this supreme kind of waste. I mean, I don't know how many folks abroad have been watching the January 6 hearings in the US House, but to see the depth of the deception that went on by the Trump administration, and then to have candidates from the Republican Party that are running for state office that are still pushing this big lie. I mean, I heard a lot of that when I was in the Arizona legislature, but here we are, we're still hearing about it. So rather than working on the issues that we have, from increasing our competitiveness, dealing with issues of climate change and water and healthcare, we see the Democrats working on those issues, delivering on those issues, and we see the Republicans, just distracting us with perpetuating the big lie. So it's I hear a lot of frustration at the doors, and a lot of interest in, come on, let's go forward, and who are these people trying to take us backwards?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, that's a good point too. I mean, what do you think going into the election, Ciscomani's greatest weakness is?
I think it's on this issue of reproductive health care rights, on the issue of abortion. He has said that he is adamantly anti-abortion. And we know that Arizona is majority of Arizonans want access to abortion. And that's also true of this district. Even though this district is very, very competitive, 60% of the voters want continued access to abortion. And he cheered overturning Roe versus Wade. His other big weakness is, as I said, he's been a loyal foot soldier for the Ducey administration. And, some of the things that the Ducey administration has done is kept us I think it's sunk during the Ducey administration. We are at the bottom of states in education. One of the first things Ducey did was to cut $100 million out of higher education. COVID ran rampant during this administration. So we're not seeing a leader in this person. I'm not seeing somebody who's willing to buck his party. His party is extremist Republicans now, as we're seeing in their nominees in statewide office. And I have no reason to believe that he's not going to support where they're going.
Yeah, thanks for that. And you're right. I think education is a winning issue for us voters in AZ6 with the University of Arizona, with the TUSD and everything. So thank you for all the hard work you're doing. Looking forward to November and sending you to Congress. So thank you so much. We've got a full slate tonight.
Absolutely.
Thank you again.
Well, thank you. Yeah, thanks for having me. I did put into the chat ways to reach my campaign, and thanks for getting up in the middle of the night, and
Yeah.
thanks for voting. Okay, would
Yes.
love to have your vote. Really appreciate it. Take care.
Thanks a lot. And with that, I'm going to turn this over to Bartley, who's going to introduce our next guest.
It's true, and I hope our next guest is on the call. Do we know if Adrian's on the call?
Haven't seen him yet, Bartley, so maybe you can just introduce him real slow and we'll all cross our fingers.
I'll
Hope he
do
shows
this
up.
really slowly. Okay, hi everybody. My name's Bartley, and I am in Munich, Arizona, Munich, Germany, and I vote in Scottsdale, Arizona. And I am very honored to introduce Adrian Fontes tonight, and I hope he joins us soon. So let's go ahead and start. As Maricopa County Recorder from 2016 to 2020, Adrian Fontes reformed a broken, outdated, and unjust voting system and made elections in Arizona more accessible and more secure than ever before. His administration set up an elections infrastructure that served record voter turnout in 2020. He worked with political and community organizations across the political spectrum to increase registered voters by 500,000 people, making Maricopa County the second largest voting jurisdiction in the United States. Adrian grew up in the border town of Nogales. He served 4 years in the US Marine Corps. He received his bachelor's from ASU and his law degree from University of Denver. And then he worked as a prosecutor in Colorado and in Arizona. In 2016, after witnessing shameful voter suppression tactics, including 6-hour lines at the polls, he decided to run for Maricopa County Recorder, and he won. becoming the first Democrat to hold the recorder's office in 50 years and the first Latino to hold office in Arizona's largest county. Adrian has won a spirited primary to become our Democratic candidate for Secretary of State. And he's an old friend of Democrats abroad. He's joined us in global virtual events and in London already. So we'd like to welcome him back, and I hope he's on the call for me to do that. Do we have any information if he's here?
Not just yet, no.
I have just emailed Adrian and an aide, so it seems like maybe there was some kind of a mix-up. And so we can do one of two things. I don't think our next guest is on yet either. I don't see him. So while we're waiting for Adrian, we could jump in if you're ready, Theresa, and talk about the 10 things that people can do to help elect him and Kirsten, who we just heard from.
Sure, let's do it.
Let's do it. So Jennifer, can you put up this lovely slide that we have? And by way of introduction, Theresa, here's the mic.
Hi, everybody. I'm Theresa Ritterhof. I live in Germany, but I'm actually in Valparaiso, Indiana right now. So more closer to your time zone. And I am the membership engagement coordinator for Democrats Abroad. So we wanted to give you a couple of takeaways today, because that's, of course, the question that comes up in everybody's mind when we hear these fantastic candidates speak is, what can I do? What can I do to help these people get elected and send them to Washington, do our good work? Adrian has joined. All right, then we will put this off for a little later in the call. See you soon. And welcome,
Okay,
Adrian.
then I'll go back. Welcome, Adrian. I just introduced you. It was a glowing introduction, so we think you're really cool. And you now have 5 minutes to give us your pitch.
Well, first of all, thank you very much, and I apologize for the timing. I mean, we're all around the world, and I should be a little more cognizant. But thank you for your patience. I'm Adrian Fontes. I am the Democratic nominee for Arizona Secretary of State. Thank you, everybody, Democrats abroad, for being here. And I'll just tell you, the first time I came in contact with Democrats abroad was at the DNC back in, when was that? 2018? Something like that. Anyway, I was newish to politics. I hadn't run for public office before 2016. I didn't know anything about a lot of this stuff. Then all of a sudden I realized there's all these amazing people all over the world that really care. And so first and foremost, thank you for caring, because right now we need all the caring folks we can get. Arizona, as you all have heard, is really the hotbed. We are the latest, greatest swing state, but more important than that, because democracy is on the ballot, this race could not be more critical. In fact, I have been told by several folks that this is one of the top 3 races in the country across the board, state or federal or anything in the United States of America. And I'm very proud to be representing the Democratic Party and reasonable Americans everywhere, because, you know, the guy I'm running against is an oath keeper. He is a white nationalist. He has, even before the big lie, back in the spring of 2018, he introduced a bill to take the US Senate seats away from the popular vote and go to a pre-19th Amendment. The legislature gets to pick, because I guess he thinks voters are not equipped to pick their own representatives in the United States of America. This is the person that we're running against. He is very well funded. He went on a 26-state fundraising tour. And again, all of the bad things that you can imagine, including, I will say slightly tongue-in-cheek, but it's real, including the fake tan and the fake cowboy hat. That's all what we're facing here. I, on the other hand, for those of you who haven't met, and I apologize, I didn't hear the introduction. I'm a Marine Corps veteran. I've got 3 teenage daughters, and we built the most successful and even, albeit highly scrutinized, election system in the country, in the history of the country. Broward County ain't got nothing on what we did in Maricopa County, but we had everybody snooping at everything, every email, every policy decision across the board, and we came out smelling like a rose. My bipartisan system passed every single test, and it is being held up as an example in the election administration world across the United States, as an example of what to do and how to do it well. I am very excited about taking and moving into this office here in Arizona. As you may know, we have a 27-day election season, not a one-shot election day. And so getting your votes in early in Arizona is critical. If you are a member of any group, any local Democratic groups, please spread the good word about getting those votes in early. Here's why. The earlier our voters vote, the smaller our universe to chase is later in the season. And towards election day, those dollars that folks invest in our campaign and other Democratic campaigns go further when we have a smaller target to chase. So get everybody voting early as possible. It's very, very important here in Arizona. And if you are in another early voting state, please do so as well. I think New York has 9 days of early voting. Several other states have longer early voting season. Those of you overseas understand voting remotely or absentee, how that works. So get it done early, please. That really helps everybody. So I know I've only got 5 minutes. We're doing well. Numbers that we've heard from other places show us in a very, very competitive race, but it is absolutely winnable. We need all hands on deck for this. And I am running for Secretary of State so that my kids can actually live in a democracy. And we've heard it a million times. I'll end on this note, that this is the most important election of our lifetimes. I think it's a little more than that. This may be the last election that we have, given the South Carolina case before the Supreme Court. And we know what they've done to stare decisis. We know what they've done to what ought to have been settled law, right, ladies? Your right to choose was eviscerated after 50 years of being the norm. This Supreme Court will kill the Voting Rights Act, and they have the opportunity to do it. We must crush them at the ballot box. We must crush this movement using the very democracy that they despise as our weapon of choice. I'm Adrian Fontes. I'm running for Arizona Secretary of State, and with your help, we will be successful. Thank you so much. I don't know if there's time for questions, but I would invite folks, if I could take a quick moment of liberty. We've got an Americans Abroad for Fontes coming up. I think you can get details from some of the folks here. If anybody on the call can put that in the chat, I'd really appreciate it. We'll be fundraising for my campaign. And thank you, everybody, for what you're doing, whithersoever dispersed about the globe.
We have 5 minutes if you got time for some questions.
Absolutely.
You have 5?
Yes.
Wonderful. Great. And thank you for that very compact speech. I was going to ask you about Fincham, but I don't think we need to dwell too much on him. It does seem like your race is ground zero in the battle between autocracy and democracy. So what do you think is the biggest risk to your constituents?
Well, that they won't be able to vote. I mean, it's really just that simple. You know, we've got a guy, he co-sponsored a bill, either this last session or the session before, that would have given the choice of electors to the Electoral College to the legislature also. Like, he does not want people voting for their own representatives. He wants the legislature to be able to overturn the results of elections at their will. Like, your vote won't matter in Arizona if he gets elected. It's just that simple. And I, on the other hand, I'm exactly the opposite. Look, I oversaw that 2020 election. It went very well. I was on the ballot. I lost my own re-election campaign in that race out of 2 million votes almost cast by 4,600 votes. And when it became statistically impossible for me to win, I was like, oh, well, I guess they picked that guy, because that's how you America, right? That's how leaders with integrity are supposed to say, okay, cool, let's try harder next time. That's the American standard. And these folks don't believe in that. That's what's at risk here.
Yes. You might have seen there was an article this weekend in The Guardian about Jenna Griswold and the Democratic Association of Secretaries of State. What do you think about the national and international attention that your race and all of these local races are getting?
Well, it's a tragedy. And it's a tragedy because we shouldn't be getting this kind of attention. We shouldn't have democracy on the line. Our republic and the nature of our society should not be at risk. I mean, think about this. Why is this important? It's important because elections are the golden thread that run through the entire fabric of our society. And if you pull that thread out, all of society disintegrates. And we're talking about everything: business, industry, tech, education, arts and sciences, music, medicine, all of it, law. It all works together because we have a government system that operates sort of as like that Chevy truck, right? The heartbeat of America. We have another election. We have another election. We can predict that. We get rid of our elections and the capacity for us to give the consent of the governed. I mean, that goes away. None of it works anymore after that. That's why this is important. And it's a tragedy that it has become important. So what do I think about the fact that it's important? It's a tragedy. And I'm happy to be on the front lines of that fight.
I can't wait to celebrate your victory on that one. Thank you. We've got time. We have 2 more minutes. So I don't know. Could you tell us, the Roe v. Wade issue, the Dobbs decision is big for many of us. As Secretary of State, how does that go into your purview? What do you see as your role there?
Well, we put out a policy position several months ago when the draft of the Dobbs decision was leaked. Arizona, and so first of all, not much. Okay, I'll just put that out there. But Arizona, like so many other states, has a confidential voter or a protected voter file. And that means that police officers, judges, prosecutors, folks who are victims of domestic violence and ongoing threats with restraining orders and stuff, their voter registration address is held confidentially by the registrars of voters. That's administered at the Secretary's office. I put out a policy that would propose to include women seeking abortions, abortion care providers, and their staff, because I think that sort of invasion of their privacy, I mean, we've already seen clinics bombed and doctors threatened and things of this nature. So any little piece that the Secretary's office can play in securing the right to this kind of care is something that I would absolutely help with. I was on the board of advisors for the Planned Parenthood Advocates of Arizona many years before I was in politics. I've got three daughters who are people who might find themselves in the path of pregnancy and may want to have that choice. And so, as a dad, I want to make sure that we're in good shape to take care of them.
Thank you very, very much. We are right on time, guys. How good are we? I want to mention that if you want to vote for Adrian, you have to be able to vote down ballot. And so Arizona is a state where you click the box that says, I intend to return. Because who knows, life throws us wrenches and it doesn't matter how long you've been where, but that's a very important thing when you get your ballot. You can all hear me, right?
And please, that is very important, and reemphasize that to everyone. The intent to return may be a speculative intent as far as the law is concerned. That intent, if it exists that much, you can impact your school districts, your local legislature, and so forth. Very important. Otherwise, you can't vote for me, and that would kind of be a bummer for me. So,
huge bummer for all of us. So, thank you, Adrian. Thank you so much.
Thanks. The link's in the chat there.
Perfect.
Appreciate it.
Okay, thanks. I will see you next week then, Adrian. Bye.
We're looking forward to it. Bye, everybody.
Thank you. So now, hoping that Jevin is on the call. Do we know if Jevin is on the call to keep going? This is good to go. All right,
Yes,
then
Bartley.
now we move on to the House District number 1, which is my race. And I'm very excited to be able to introduce Jevin Hodge. Jevin was born in Tempe, Arizona, and he earned a bachelor's degree from George Washington University. There he is, hi. He has been involved in policy advising and campaign management at the municipal, the state, and the federal level, including as vice chairman of the Arizona Democratic Party. He's worked as business consultant, as the National Engagement Director for Link Strategic Partners, and chair of the Booker T. Washington Child Development Center. He's also served as a board member for Best Buddies Arizona and as an advisory board member for the US Global Leadership Coalition. He's the former president of the Tempe Union High Schools Education Foundation. And in Tempe, he was recipient of the NAACP Roy Wilkins Service Award and the Martin Luther King Diversity Award. Lastly, Jevin is a millennial inspirational speaker, and he's noted as, quote, America's leading young agent for change. He's author of LYFE, Living Young, Free, and Extravagant. He travels the nation speaking to millennials, community leaders, and organizations on how to mobilize, attract, educate, and retain young talent. So with that, welcome, Jevin, and the floor is yours.
Wow, Bartley, thank you so very much for the introduction. You know, you stay in constant motion and you never sit back and listen to the introduction, and it's the first time that I've heard it in a long time. It is a great honor to be here with the Democrats abroad. I mean, where are we at now? About 250,000 Democrats abroad here. When I was at the Democratic Party and I served as vice chairman and then acting chairman, when I went to my first DNC meeting, the Democrats abroad was one of the first groups that embraced me and invited me in to attend their meetings and attend their events and everything that was going on. And so I just have to say, I have a special affinity with your group. I have a special affinity with the work that you all are doing. And thank you for fighting to protect our democracy here on American soil and around the world as you all are engaging and participating. And it's a great honor to be here. I'm Jevin Hodge, and I am the Democratic nominee for Arizona's 1st Congressional District, one of the nation's most competitive seats. Arizona's 1st Congressional District, I mean, is going to be critical in determining the future of the United States House, and determining the future of the United States Senate. And we just heard from Adrian Fontes, and there is no pathway. There is no pathway to a statewide victory without us winning in Phoenix and Scottsdale, right in the heart of Arizona's 1st district. And as you heard, you know, I'm an Arizona native, born and raised here, son of a single parent. You hear me talk about my mama a lot. I'm a proud mama's boy. My mother's the first Black woman elected in the city of Tempe as a Tempe City Councilwoman. And growing up, she raised us with the values on how to be a good, strong leader, faith, service, commitment to others, and doing right by people. Times wasn't always easy for us. We grew up in affordable housing, was on food stamps, didn't have a car until I was a sophomore in high school. And I'm a proud public school kid from Head Start to high school, where I got to go off and attend one of the nation's top universities on a Pell Grant and a bunch of loans. And by day, I'm a problem solver. I work with organizations to achieve their goals and achieve their missions, mission-driven organizations. And I'm the proud president of the Booker T. Washington Child Development Center, the state's longest running Head Start. And when I think about providing services, that's what our Head Start represents, because we get to support the entire family. We're supporting the students and providing them with the education and enrichment that they so need and require. The families with wraparound services, health and human services, job support as well. And that's what we need in the United States Congress. See, a big part of leadership is stepping up to do the job when the job's not getting done. And with David Schweikert, we have someone who is working every single day to tear down what we all collectively have worked so hard to protect and to preserve. And we need leaders in the United States Congress that is going to stand up and fight for access to quality healthcare, and to make sure that we're investing in education, and to make sure we're attacking the climate crisis head on with 21st century jobs. And I will be that leader for you. And I just want to take a point of personal privilege, because in my day job, I opened our Manchester office, and now we have some folks that are over there. And I have learned firsthand about the burden, the tax burden that you all are experiencing. And that is absolutely ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. So just know this: when I am a member of Congress, of the United States House of Representatives, I will fight for you on this issue. Promise you on that. I promise you on that. So, you know, my office will always be open. The doors will always be open, and I'm going to be here with you. Last thing I'm going to say here, and then I'll turn it over for Q&A, because I only have a few minutes. But Dr. King says the moral arc of the universe is long and it bends towards justice. But the only way that that arc bends towards justice is if each and every one of us grabs tight and pulls on it as hard as we possibly can. This is our time and our moment to step up and protect the future of this country. We want to make sure that our kids and our grandkids and our great-grandkids inherit a government, inherit a country that is much better than the one that we inherited. And so with that, I'm Jevin Hodge. I'm the Democratic nominee in Arizona's 1st District, and it is an absolute honor to be here with you all. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much. Wow, you really struck a chord. That was one of my questions I was going to ask. I'm just going to say thank you, because the overseas taxation issue is a huge issue for everyone I know. I have spent my weekend doing my taxes, and it's a nightmare. And we can't get bank accounts. You know, we get kicked out. We can't buy certain investments. So I'm thrilled to hear that you know that, and that you will fight for us.
I mean, and
On
you're
that
getting
note,
doubled and tripled taxed. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
yes. Yeah. And then it goes to also knowing people who are in difficult marriages and having to put everything in their spouse's name. It's just, it's an awful mess. And I'm so very happy that you're aware of that. On that note, I wanted to also mention the American Abroad Caucus, which Corey mentioned earlier. I hope you know that that exists, and we hope that you'll join that when you're in Congress.
Of course.
Super.
Of course.
And that helps with citizenship and taxation issues and immigration and voting and blah, blah, blah. Banking access, that's big. Then I would like to ask you what you think Schweikert, your opponent's greatest weakness is.
All of them. I mean, Schweikert is the gift that just keeps on giving. You have someone that has 11 ethical convictions by the entire United States Congress. Now, the Congress can't agree on anything, but every member, all 435 of them, agree that Schweikert is bad. That is something that we need to make known. And that is something that is a story that we have to tell. He's been fined $175,000 for fraudulent loans, misused the campaign dollars, first-class tickets, trips to the Super Bowl. I mean, it just keeps going on and on and on. And not to mention what he's said on record. He's on record saying that a woman does not need the right to choose. He is on record saying that climate change is folklore. And he's on record on the floor of the United States House of Representatives saying that diabetes does not exist and we do not need to cap the cost of insulin. He is the gift that just keeps on giving for us. In addition to that, he voted no for the Bipartisan Infrastructure Act, the CHIPS Act. He voted no for marriage equality. He voted no to protect and codify Roe v. Wade. He voted no to protect our troops that are near burn pits. And I mean, the list just keeps going on and on. And so I'll just say this, the same way that I can take a punch, I'm going to give a punch, and we do not have to make things up when we do so. And so we are going to make sure that we hit hard, and we're communicating that message to the people of Arizona's 1st District.
That was going to be my next question, because you're preaching to the choir here. I think on this call, we all know that, but how are you getting your message out on the ground?
Yeah. And this is a great opportunity for me to be a candidate and make a shameless plug. You can go to jevinhodge.com and make an investment in this race. We have a very, very strong ground game here. We're working in lockstep with Senator Kelly in the coordinated campaign to make sure that we're reaching those hard to reach voters, low propensity Democrats, independents, and what I like to call reality Republicans, principled conservatives that just can't stomach what is happening right now with the Republican Party because they need a home too. And so we're knocking doors. We're mailing folks. And we just last Friday filmed our TV ads, and we'll be going up on TV in the middle of September. But every dollar that is invested in this campaign will help us get up on TV earlier and earlier. And so that's going to be a big piece of this. Our district is a district that we know for certain still watches TV, watches a lot of it. And we want to make sure we get our message out before the folks here. And then the last thing I want to say is, and Democrats Abroad, y'all have been a very, some of the folks in the group here have been very helpful with amplifying our message, helping us amplify the message on social media, sharing the content on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram. That helps us as well. And then the last thing I want to mention on this point is that we are in a dead heat tie. We are in a dead heat tie. Our polling indicates that we are tied at 47-47. And then the best part about it is that our polling had an oversaturation of Republicans. Our polling had over 55% of the participants as registered Republicans, and we're still in a tie by design so that we can get the worst results possible so we know what kind of ground we had to make up. Come to find out, people actually like us. And so Schweikert is significantly underwater. Folks at more north of 60% identify with his unfavorables, his ethnic violations, and bad votes. But the best part about it that should give you all a bit of hope and a bit of inspiration is that amongst Republican voters in this district, we are polling at 11%. And while that may seem like a small number, Mark Kelly is polling at about 15% amongst Republican voters in our district. So that's what it's going to take for us to win this. We're going to need folks to cross over. We're going to need folks to believe in our mission and to vote to protect our democracy. And we have a chance to do so. So telling our story is going to be critical. Getting our message out there is going to be critical. And every dollar that you invest, $5 or $500, will help us out significantly as we work to tell that story.
That's great. Thank you. We still have a couple of minutes. Do you want to give me an elevator pitch? Arizona is a border state, and there's a certain media company that tends to sort of go with rage and fear and anger. So what's your answer to border and immigration in 2 minutes?
I can sit and talk about this all day.
No, you know.
Look,
Yeah.
I'm going to say this. We need comprehensive approach to having logical solutions for addressing the crisis at the border and ensuring that we are cutting the red tape of the immigration process. See, right now we're addressing a 21st century problem with a 19th century solution. A wall is not going to solve this problem. And so, and the other piece of this is we talk about the economy. Well, guess what? When we talk about immigration and economic productivity is paired together. We have people from around the world that are coming to American universities to study. We have people from around the world that want to come to America to live, work, play, and raise their kids. And what we need to do is have a streamlined process that ensures that everyone has an equitable approach that is sensible and logical. And building a border wall is not the answer in this moment. If we want to focus on safety and security, we can invest in 21st century solutions like technology to support our Customs and Border Patrol, to support local and law enforcement, but wasting taxpayer dollars with an archaic solution is not the answer here. And so what we need to do is just have a common sense approach. We need to cut down the red tape in the immigration process and modernize our systems so that we can move forward and have a 21st century solution for a 21st century problem.
Thank you so much. I think we are so super on time. That was fabulous. I can't wait to vote for you. I can't wait to go to the victory party.
That's right.
and thank you very much for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
So with that, thanks a lot, Jevin. With
Have
that,
a great one,
I'm
everybody.
Turn back. Thanks for joining us. With that, I'm going to turn back over to Theresa to go back to what we were talking about before with the voting.
Yeah,
How
I
to
think
vote.
we made a little switch in the meantime, Bartley. We're going to go answer
Okay.
some voting questions right now. Jevin and I think his campaign manager, Jazz, also gone, but wanted to say a ton of constituents on this call for Arizona 1. We are really going to be spreading the word. We wanted to answer a couple voting questions while they're on everybody's mind. So if we can get that slide up again that we were talking about a minute ago, wanted to really point out that there are these 5 steps for people to take. Request your ballot at Vote From Abroad. On the form that you send in, that you fill out on Vote From Abroad, click the box to ask for your ballot to come to you by email. Then the second step in the blue, check to make sure the form got there and that it was accepted. It's really easy to do. We provide you the information at Vote From Abroad, how to email or phone the county offices in Arizona, which are, lucky us, very responsive. The third step is to get the ballot. Ballot drop this year is September 24th. Overseas voters get their ballots 45 days before the election. States are required to start sending them out on that date if you have requested it before that date. Make sure that you're getting the ballot by email. Even people who live in Germany, like me, don't trust the mail. Get the ballot by email. Step 4, download it, vote it all the way down the ballot, and then send it in the best way, fastest way you can. Arizona voters, that's upload or email, and then track your ballot. And we tell you how to do that too. Now, I know we've got a bunch of people on this call who are not Arizona voters. State law determines the deadlines and the methods of transmission for your voting materials. We got all that info for you as well. Just go to step number 1, votefromabroad.org, click on your state, and you'll get the info that you need. Important, of course, Election Day, November 8th. Arizona's lucky. Our deadlines for requesting a ballot, for registering to vote from overseas, and for returning that ballot, they are all November 8th. But please do not wait. Think how busy that office is going to be on the 8th. Do it now, get your ballot in September and send it in. And like Adrian said, vote early. And now I want to take just a minute to talk about that intention to return. There is a question on the form that you send in. If you select, I intend to return, none of those terms being defined, what that actually means, you will get a full ballot, which means you will get on your ballot federal, state, and local races, and every one of the candidates who's on here tonight will be on your ballot. However, if you select the choice, my return is uncertain, you will get a federal only ballot. And in a midterm year, that means US House and US Senate. In a presidential year, of course, also the president. But everything else, from governor to secretary of state, attorney general, and the state legislature, those names and positions will be on the full ballot that only Arizona voters who intend to return will get. It is your choice. It is the voters' choice. I hope that we're making clear tonight what the choices are and what the consequences are. So for questions, we've taken a couple in the chat box. Please get in touch with us. You can, the email on the slide is info@democratsabroad.org. You can also write to the Arizona team, az@democratsabroad.org, or simply go to votefromabroad.org. And on every page, there's a little red chat bubble. You can type your question in there, and our 24/7 voter help desk will get back to you. So, here are really the basics and the details for Arizona. I know that most people, I trust that most people on this call have done this already. If you haven't, please do it today. And once you've done it, once you've done your business, then you need to pay attention to what Theresa is going to tell you right now, because there are far more people not voting from overseas than are voting, and we need to find them and get them voting. So Theresa, it's all yours. Tell us, please, what we can do.
Thanks, Katie. Can we get that slide up again to help people follow along? I mean, I can give you a sneak preview that number one is going to be the one you've heard before, which is to request your ballot at votefromabroad.org. And as Adrian and now Katie have said a couple of times, do it early, do it now. It's really not even that early anymore, to be honest, but do it now and request that it be sent by email. You should have it in your inbox September 24th. And that goes for all states. Doesn't matter if you're an Arizona voter or not, if you're an overseas voter, do it now, do it today. So the second one might be something you haven't thought of, which is just adding this website to your email signature is a really nice, subtle way to nudge people you know and who know you, might be corresponding with you on email. People listen to people they know. You don't even have to say anything. It's just there. And it's just a little reminder. And, it can serve as a reminder to people who are overseas and even people who are at home who may not have made their voting plans yet. Just raises people's awareness that this is an election year and it's right around the corner. So it's a great thing to do. Really easy. Just add it to your email signature. Number 3 is also easy, but it's one of those easy, it's so easy to do, it's also easy not to do. So we're here to remind you to do it. Don't skip it. It really is easy to share Vote From Abroad and voting information on social media. Sharing means retweeting things that Democrats Abroad has posted, but it can also mean writing an original tweet or posting Instagram when you're requesting your ballot, take a selfie and post it. These things are really impactful. When people who know you see you engaging in voting, civic activity, it really triggers something that all the kind of generic, corporate reminders cannot do. People listen to people they know. So no matter how many followers you have or how few or how many, it can really help. And of course, it makes the information available for others to share as well. So don't skip that step. Share our information, share the information about the wonderful candidates you've met today. Number 4, this requires slightly more work, but we've made it really easy for you to send what we call an alma mater letter, what I like to call the Write Your Mother campaign. Write your mother letter, that's your alma mater, the place you went to school, or maybe the place that sent you overseas to study, your study abroad program. We have a letter template ready for you to go. So we've made it really, really easy. You just click on this link, fill in the blanks, and send it off and then tell us what you hear. We've had great responses with this because, look, schools and universities, they listen to the people who they consider to be part of their community. So it's a lot more impactful for you to write this letter than it is, for example, for us to send it generically. So please help us out here and spread the word. Unfortunately, a lot of programs, study abroad programs, are not giving their students the correct information about how to vote from overseas. These are huge numbers. They're coming over right now. They're getting their tickets, they're getting on planes, they're packing their bags. Let's make sure they also return their ballots from overseas when they're studying abroad. So that's really something I encourage everyone to do on this call if you haven't already. Number 5, phone bank with Dems abroad. Well, our own Katie is the queen and the expert of phone banking with Democrats abroad, and she will tell you it is our most effective tool for getting our members to get their ballots returned. It's just a nice little nudge. We do warm calling at Democrats abroad. It's not cold calling. These are people who have asked to be contacted. They're friendly, warm, and grateful that we are giving them this call and reminding them what they need to do, just like we're reminding you today. It's really fun. You can do it from anywhere. It doesn't cost you anything. It does cost us something, but not you. All you need is a computer. You can do it from home. So if you have not done this with us before, it's really easy to get trained. You can do a self-study. We have Zoom classes. It's a quick process, and then you're ready to get on the horn. If you've done it in the past, you're ready to go. You can do it today. And we do have ongoing campaigns right now, calling these battleground states, these all important battleground states first. And I'd really encourage you to give it a try. If you're ready to go even the next step. So what happens is when you phone bank and you talk to people, maybe you get somebody who has an issue that you're not sure how to help them with, that gets kicked upstairs to our voter assistance team. And those are also the people you reach through our chat box if you're on Vote From Abroad or Democrats Abroad, and click the chat box function. If you want to be one of those people receiving the call or the email asking for help, we can train you to do that. And Intercom is our platform, our sort of ticketing platform for helping work through these requests. And you can get trained to be on that too. We have lots of options and dates coming up to get trained on that. If you have time, we'd love to have you. Finally, you can, well, not finally, but number 7, you can join a state team such as this one. The Arizona state team is one of our many new state teams. A dozen almost right now. We have battleground states. We have a couple that are like California that aren't really battleground, but very important, especially certain districts. You don't have to be a voter in these states to be a member of a team. So if your state is not a battleground state, but you want to have impact, feel free to adopt a state and join one of these teams and help us out and help put on these events and help get the word out at home and abroad. Next suggestion we have, number 8, is to adopt a campaign. So maybe you were really impressed with one of these candidates today, but they're not in your district. Nothing stops you from sharing their info on social media, maybe reaching out to people you do know in their district. Shout out to my dad and his lovely wife, my stepmom, Patty, who are on this call from District 1 in Arizona. Thanks for being here. You can see we have prepared a list for you of key campaigns across the whole country. Pick one, find one, and help us, as Jevin said, tell the story, help tell the story. We all need to be out there telling the story so that it gets to where the ears that it needs to reach. Number 9 is sort of the core of what we call relational organizing, which goes back to this principle mentioned before. People listen to people they know. People listen to their own networks, people in their own circle. So, don't be shy. This is not a taboo subject. Ask people, have you gotten your ballot? Are you ready to vote? Do you have a plan to vote? What is it? Here's mine. Talk about it. This is what people in healthy democracies do. Ask them and ask them to reach out and ask 3 of their friends. This is how it works.
And finally, last but certainly not least, you know, maybe a lot of these things sound a little time consuming. Maybe you don't have that kind of time at the moment. Maybe you're busy. Consider giving us a bit of your treasure instead of your time. Really helps us get out the overseas vote. As I said, phone banking is free for you, but not for us. We can reach a lot of voters with just about $20 is about 60 voters. So 2022 will help keep and turn Arizona blue. Please consider supporting us today. Thank you so much. And thanks to everybody who made this call possible today. It's been great.
Okay, and Theresa, with us flipping the schedule around a little bit, you still have the microphone.
Got it. All right.
You got it. We're moving on. We've got a minute to spare.
I'll keep it.
Thank
We
you
are
so
so
much.
on time.
Thank you for the list of 10. And I just want, for all of you that were trying to either copy and paste from the chat or scribbling furiously, don't worry. We're going to send you that list of 10 things with all of the links, and you can pick which one you want to do every day. Don't limit yourself to one if you've got more time. All right, Theresa, back to you.
All right, great.
Hi, Seth.
I have the honor of introducing Seth Ladman today. Welcome. Seth was born in New York. His family moved to Arizona when he was 10. He attended the University of Arizona, graduating in political science from Arizona State University. He worked at his father's furniture manufacturing shop while taking business courses and later earned an MBA from UCLA. He returned to Arizona to take a leadership role in the family business. Seth is running for office to ensure that Arizona is a state where local economies can flourish, which demands restoring public investments in education. Seth is committed to building opportunities for those in his district and ensuring all Arizonans can thrive. Great, thank you. Welcome to Democrats.
Yeah, thank you. That was a very nice introduction. Thank you. Yeah, and it's great. I mean, it's great being here today. I thought that list of 10 was really fantastic, and it's exciting to see so many people who are interested in, you know, participating and helping here in our races in Arizona, which are critical. My name is Seth Ladman. I am running for the state house in LD9. LD9 is an exciting new district. LD9 is actually the most competitive flippable district in the state of Arizona. The way they drew the lines after redistricting, this district votes 50% Democrat, 50% Republican, right down the middle. Every vote's going to matter, and it's going to be a close one, but we still feel good about our chances. Yeah, so I grew up in Arizona. I'm a business owner. You know, was said, I took over running a family business 10 years ago. This was coming out of the Great Recession. So it's furniture manufacturing, and we also have 2 retail stores. But coming out of the Great Recession, furniture industry was doing horribly. It sort of followed housing right off a cliff. So the business had fallen on some tough times. But you know, I was asked to come home and take over running it and provide some new direction. So, you know, of course I said yes. It's my family's business. I grew up in that business. Someone pointed out last week that I learned to drive a forklift before I learned to drive a car from having worked there in high school. And, you know, I did that because I had a responsibility, and I now feel that same responsibility to my state. Arizona is a fantastic state. We all love it. It's succeeding in many ways, but in many, many ways, it's falling short. We are 49th in the nation in how much we spend in education. Let that sink in for a second. I mean, being bottom of the barrel in anything is horrible, but how much we're choosing to invest in our children's future, you know, it's sort of, I mean, it's beyond embarrassing. I want to help build a more inclusive economy, help small businesses, working class families, and reforming government's a big one for me. Government ethics reform, campaign finance reform, fighting voter suppression, extending access to the ballot box to as many people as possible. Because I don't want to just fund education for 2 or 4 years or as long as Democrats are hopefully able to gain power. I want to fund it for forever because it's the right thing to do. And in order to do that, I think we need structural reforms in order to make sure our legislature is more representative of the will of the people. Because here in Arizona, we want to fund education. We passed Prop 208, which gave $1 billion to public schools, yet the legislature and then the courts undid it. Several years ago, we all voted on the ballot to not expand vouchers, yet the legislature just did universal expansion this last session. So we have a problem with representation here in Arizona that needs to be fixed. And here in Arizona, our democracy is under attack. Here in the United States, our democracy is under attack. But there have been hundreds of voter suppression bills just last session here in Arizona. And one of the scariest bills was that the Republican-controlled state legislature would get to decide who Arizona voted for president in 2024. So forget the popular vote, how many people actually voted for, say, Biden or Trump. The Republican-controlled legislature would get to say, we vote for Trump. So they're already setting it up to steal the next election. And Biden won this state by 10,000 votes last time. And it was one of the few critical states that actually won the presidency for our nation. So they are setting up to steal an election. Our very democracy is under threat. And right now in the legislature, in the House, it's 31 Republicans to 29 Democrats. In the state Senate, it's 16 to 14. 10 years ago, it was a super majority for the Republicans, but we have been working for the past decade to get 1 seat away from blocking horrible legislation like that bill I just mentioned, 2 seats away from taking the majority, where we can do the things that we all care about. So we are very close. We appreciate you all being here, appreciate any help you can provide. I promise you, are working hard every day to make sure we give ourselves the best chances on November 8th. And thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Fantastic. Just wanted to mention that since you mentioned the margin of victory for Biden in Arizona, we did provide 19,000 votes from overseas. So we helped make it happen in Arizona.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thanks to all of us. Congratulations to all of us for Arizona and Georgia. I really don't want to think about where we would be without it. So thanks for the reminder of how important this is today, and really appreciated your remarks and the things that you're focusing on. I think we have our next speaker waiting in the wings. Thank you so much, Seth. And I'm going to be introducing now Eva Birch. Eva was born and raised in Arizona and attended Valley Public Schools from kindergarten through high school. She studied nursing at Pima Medical Institute in Mesa and began a career in emergency nursing in 2012. In her work in emergency departments in Phoenix and Mesa, she's seen firsthand the impact that insurance status, food insecurity, access to education, homelessness, and multiple other disparities have on individuals, families, and communities. Eva returned to school to obtain a master's degree and nurse practitioner credentials. A nurse at heart, Eva is dedicated to improving the lives of Arizonans through compassionate and comprehensive healthcare. She's currently a precinct committee person in Legislative District 9 and lives in Mesa with her husband, 2 young sons, and 2 dogs. Eva, the floor is yours. Welcome.
Thank you so much. And I was actually just out knocking doors, so I'm a little bit of a mess right now, and I appreciate you all being patient with me on that. But again, I'm Eva Birch. I am running to be the next state senator in Arizona's Legislative District 9. I'm doing this because I really believe in it. I believe that we can make meaningful change for Arizonans in the legislature. And I think we can do this in a few key areas. Of course, as Seth mentioned, I want to increase funding for education. We've got to have smaller class sizes, and we should have well-paid, highly qualified teachers. Arizona really agrees on that. And what's been happening in the legislature to combat that very popular point of view is pretty heinous. And I know that we can do better than what we're doing now. And I also want to protect the right to vote in Arizona by not only increasing access to the ballot box, but by protecting the option to vote by mail, which has also been on the floor of the legislature. All of this voter suppression legislation that has been happening in Arizona is all pretty aggressive and ridiculous and not the will of the voters, but talks of ending the ability to vote by mail is really one of the most toxic of those conversations, because more than 80% of our voters vote by mail, and we have to maintain that right. It's very often 100-something degrees outside in Arizona, and to have people in lines that are hours and hours long is just a way to suppress the votes. So we want to maintain that right. And of course, I want to lower healthcare costs so that we can create a system that is not consistently leaving children and elderly Arizonans and the poor behind, which we do consistently. We have a higher than average uninsured rate in Arizona. I know we can be doing better than that. But the budget priorities in Arizona historically, all this voter suppression legislation and a number of other ballot initiatives that are brought before the Arizona State Senate consistently target and disproportionately hurt women and other minority populations. And now, of course, we're all contending with the possibility of a reinstallation of an abortion law that was written and passed before women had the right to vote, which is absurd. We have no defense from these actions without earning at least a tie in one house of the Arizona legislature. And as Seth mentioned, there is no path to a majority or even a tie in either house of the legislature without winning in our districts. So very, very high stakes in LD9. And the Senate Republicans have also consistently hindered the vote to ratify the Equal Rights Amendment. let me tell you a little bit about myself. I was, again, born and raised here in Phoenix. My mother is a Norwegian citizen still, so I'm a new American on my mother's side. And then my dad has been here for, his family has been here for a fourth generation Arizonan. So really deep roots on one side and new American on the other. I did go to nursing school, and while I was there, I became pregnant and I had a child and became a single parent. And I really did rely on public resources. I had grants, I had federal grants, I had student loans, I had publicly funded healthcare for myself and for my new baby. And there's just no way that I would have gotten through that program without all of the help that I had. So I want to make sure that those resources are available to others in Arizona. Now that I am working as a nurse practitioner, I work in reproductive healthcare. So that's obviously a really high priority for me. Women who seek abortions but are denied that have significantly worse outcomes. They are more likely to suffer from intimate partner violence. They're more likely to file for bankruptcy. They're more likely to be evicted. Their living children are more likely to suffer developmental challenges and delays. There's so many things. It's such a huge fallout. And what we're seeing in Arizona is really scary. And I think that to have somebody who actually works in reproductive healthcare in the state Senate is something that we desperately need. And I'm definitely up to the challenge. So I think that Seth did a really good job explaining the importance of the race and our demographics here, but I just want to let you all know that I appreciate you giving me some time and hearing me out. We really rely on support from our allies and communities that support equity and justice, so thank you.
Thank you so much, Eva. That was great. Really enjoyed hearing a little more about you and your program. And I'm going to pass it now to Evie, my friend from Wiesbaden, Germany, currently in Arizona, to introduce our next speaker. Thank you so much, Eva.
Eva, may I just ask you to please stay on for Q&A at the end if you have time? We'd love to have you stay.
I do have another meeting very shortly. Let me check with my campaign manager. If I can stay, I will. And if I've got to go, then I'll leave a note in the chat.
All good.
All
Sounds
good.
great.
We'll be back in touch if you can't. Thank you. Go ahead,
you.
Avi. Sorry for the interruption.
Okay. It's my pleasure to introduce Jeannie Casteen, who's run for the Arizona State Senate to represent the new District 2. She was born in Harvard, Illinois, a bachelor's degree and a master's degree in education from Arizona State. As a teacher in Title I schools, she recognized the need for an educational approach that supports every child, not just those whose parents can drive them to a charter school. In her classroom, her students were always more than just test scores. And as a board member, she brought the approach to the schools in her district so that every child, regardless of zip code, could succeed. And at this point, it's my pleasure to introduce. You can take it over.
Well, thank you so much. Again, my name is Jeannie Casteen. I am a lifelong educator. I taught middle school and high school exclusively in Title I schools, which means that the majority of kids qualified for free and reduced lunch. I taught English and social studies. Boy, do I miss it. Hearing you talk about my students, especially today, I really, really miss my students. I sat on my local school board for 8 years, 4 of which I was the president. And in 2020, I ran for Maricopa County school superintendent because I wanted to bring the kind of programming that we had in that K-8 district to all 58 districts in Maricopa County. Unfortunately, I missed by 0.6% of the vote, but that experience really, gave me the skill set that I needed to be successful in this race. Running in the 4th largest county in the United States has afforded me with some great name recognition. I know how to fundraise, and I'm not afraid of knocking on doors, even in 2022. And, it feels like we should all be afraid to knock on doors. But so far, my experience has been really great. And obviously, I stand in support of public education. I don't want to reiterate some of the things that some of the other speakers have said, because you've all heard that we're, consistently in the bottom 3, usually with Mississippi and Alabama, when it comes to education metrics. I mean, we have 56,000 teachers in the state of Arizona who have valid certificates to teach in the state of Arizona, but who, like me, choose not to. So in 2021, I transitioned into the nonprofit sector, where I work for a local organization that's focused on the separation of church and state. And when I saw the number of bills just flying through our legislature, really scary bills, and I know that Seth and Eva have talked about this a little bit, but there were, I believe, over 100 bills attacking our voting freedoms here in Arizona. Countless bills that were direct attacks on public education, whether it was through funding or, criminalizing teachers. We are also a state that, passed a 15-week abortion ban. And now we've got this, crazy thing happening with a territorial 1864 law that's on the books. And we're all trying to figure out, what can we do here? And even though our Constitution in Arizona fully protects a person's right to privacy, it seems that this ban is a total violation. So, I made the decision to run after seeing those bills and after realizing, that my opponent was the author of one of those bills. HB 2161 is a bill that would force teachers to out their LGBTQ students. And I thought specifically of one of my students today. His name is Izzy. And I recall when he was in middle school, he would confide in me, at first. In 6th grade, he told me he had a girlfriend. In 7th grade, he said, I think I might be bi. And then in 8th grade, he said, you know what, miss, I think I'm gay. And I said, I love you no matter what. And so to think, and Izzy came from a home where, they were 6 people living in a 2-bedroom duplex, where he was responsible for his younger siblings, where his father had substance abuse issues, his mother was incarcerated, and his uncle threatened him and told him, if I ever see you dating a boy, I will effing kill you, you effing F word. And so when I found out my opponent would have me put Izzy in harm's way, I stepped up and I decided to run. So things that are very important to me. I have 2 adult children. And again, my son is gay. And so they're struggling right now to be able to find affordable housing. My own daughter, in fact, she just graduated with honors from ASU with a degree in secondary education, but she's already moved out of the state because she knows that she can't teach as a social studies teacher an accurate history in the state of Arizona. Again, my opponent put forth a bill, an anti-CRT bill, where we can't say anything that might make a child feel bad about their ancestry. And so she's gone. We are chasing teachers out of the state in Arizona, out of the profession, before they even get the keys to their first classroom. And again, 56,000 teachers. We don't have a teacher shortage crisis. We have a teacher retention crisis. So big advocate for public schools, big advocate for bodily autonomy. I'm a huge advocate for our LGBTQ community and specifically our LGBTQ youth, where we're now seeing numerous attacks on children who identify as LGBTQ. And now with this voucher expansion that the voters in Arizona have said over and over and over again that they do not want, we are legalizing that kind of discrimination. There's a private school that's going in right now down the road from my house where it is a religious private school. And in their statement of faith, it says that faculty and staff cannot be gay or be members of the LGBTQ community. They can legally kick students out for identifying that way or force them into the closet. Don't forget, though, they can pocket their money first. And this $7,000 per child is being taken away from our public schools. And the superintendent of public instruction here in Arizona just shared with the public recently that 75% of the people who are taking advantage of this thievery, if you ask me, are people who never had their kid in a public school anyway. So we are now subsidizing the education of children whose parents are millionaires and billionaires in the state of Arizona, where these schools can legally discriminate, where they can pocket the money and kick the kid out of school, where they don't have to give any standardized tests, where they don't have to, have any kind of accountability measures, where they could be teaching that women must be subservient to men or that LGBTQ people are an abomination. So, Seth talked about how just 10 years ago, the Republicans had a supermajority and we have been chipping away at it. And my conversations at the doors have shown me that people are sick and tired of the conspiracy theories. They are sick and tired of the culture wars. They are sick and tired of the attacks on public education. And they're sick and tired of people trying to limit their ability to vote. So I am very grateful for all of you for being here. We need all hands on deck. And so I'm grateful for this opportunity, and I'm sure, oh good, Mary has already done it, of course, because Mary Fortney is the campaign manager of all campaign managers. So my information is in the chat and I will pass it back to you. Thank you so much again for having me here today. My name is Jeannie Casteen.
Thank you so much, Jean. And now it's my pleasure to introduce Judy. Are you on?
I am. Hello.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Can you hear me?
Yes. Thank you, Judy. Okay.
Okay,
Judy I'm going to do a little intro. Okay. Judy has dedicated her life to serving families in the Northwest Valley as an educator, a community leader, and volunteer. Judy grew up in the Phoenix area, graduated with an education degree from ASU, and has worked as a high school teacher and librarian for 27 years in the Glendale and Peoria school districts, and as a volunteer in the Paradise Valley district. As a single mom, she raised her two sons in Valley Public Schools. She co-founded and served on the board of Theater Works, a performing arts NGO, and founded Global Spirits, which strive to build community support in the arts and connect people to one another as well as with other cultures. Judy was elected to the Arizona State House in 2020 and came to speak with us before. She has worked to restore public education funding, ensure quality, affordable health care for all, and built a strong economy so that all Arizona families and businesses can thrive. Judy, welcome back to Democrats Abroad.
Oh,
Take it
thank
away.
you so much. I'm going to start out with a brief apology. I'm at a conference today, and so I have stepped outside to try and find a quiet place to talk with you. But occasionally there are trucks going by and people opening doors and all of that. So I will try to speak up so you can all hear me. Let me know if there's an issue. So again, I am Judy Schwiebert. I have spent my life in this district that I was elected to represent in 2020. It's where I raised my two sons in our wonderful public schools, and they got a great education. It's where I taught for 27 years, as she just said, as both an English teacher and then later as the school-wide librarian and media and internet and technology trainer. I co-founded TheaterWorks, which really gave me a front row seat to the magic that can happen every time the curtain went up. I was like, there's the magic again, because we all work together to get things done. And I try to take that lesson with me to everything that I have done ever since, whether that was in a classroom, in a library, leading a group, or now serving in the halls of the State House. So I just want to thank all of you so much for being here. What really ultimately led me to run for office, because I never imagined that I would run for office. I was a regular neighbor and mom like everybody else in our community. What led me to this place is that in 2016, after the presidential election, like so many others, I was really devastated by the results and the new president. So a friend and I started a group called Desert Progressives Indivisible, where we learned as we went. It started with election therapy with our book club. There were 7 of us in the group, and it grew to over 1,000 members within the next year, because we were putting out information every week about how people could turn their political angst into positive action to make a difference. But what we learned really quickly is that while there were a lot of issues nationally that we were trying to stop from happening or fight back against, in reality, the biggest change that we could make was right here in Arizona. And we desperately need that change. Jeannie talked a lot about this. As far as education goes, we are in the national basement when it comes to our per pupil investment in education. When I was teaching, I managed to be a single mom who could actually support my family on my teaching salary. But since then, we've had so many cuts to education. When I volunteered with a master second grade teacher after I retired, she had to work 4 jobs to make ends meet, and she eventually left the state and doubled her salary as a teacher in another state the following year. And we're at the point where 1/3 of our children no longer have a permanent qualified teacher, because so many teachers just can't afford to teach in Arizona. And I thought somebody should do something about that. I didn't think it would necessarily be me, but here I am, and I'm honored to serve our community. When I ran, we believed that if I could win this race, we could take the majority in the state house for the first time in decades, so that we could properly fund education in our state and take care of so many other issues as well. But as it turned out, I won, but some of the others who we thought would win didn't. So we've been down by 1 vote. And that's why, as Jeannie just said, we have been fighting even just with a 1 vote majority by Republicans. We have been fighting culture war bills, attacking our teachers, attacking our school boards, attacking LGBTQ young people and adults, attacking our freedom to make decisions about our own bodies, attacking our right to abortion ever since then. The abortion issue is huge for me because this hits home. My own son and daughter-in-law struggled for years to have a child and finally got pregnant. And then after a few months, they discovered that the fetus was not viable, which required an abortion. And my daughter-in-law now says how devastated she is that women today no longer have that common sense health care option. We shouldn't, as politicians, be looking over the shoulders of pregnant people and their partners and their families and their doctors to shame or blame or jail them for this most personal of decisions. Other bills that we've seen from this one vote Republican majority, again, Jeannie spoke a lot about these, but the whole idea of trying to make voting more difficult, even taking away the wildly popular vote by mail system that I think 90% of Arizonans use, that Republicans came up with in the first place 20 years ago. Now they want to do away with that and have one-day voting where everybody votes in person and we count every ballot by hand. These are nonsense kinds of legislation. They're meant to divide us. And we need people like Jeannie and Eva and me and all the people that you are hearing from today who are going to go down to the legislature and work for the real issues that we face in Arizona. We have not only a teacher shortage crisis, we have an affordable housing crisis, we have a water shortage crisis, which is existential. And we have to come up with solutions to address those very real concerns. At this conference where I'm attending right now, as a matter of fact, we heard from the Center for the Future of Arizona. You might even check out their website. They just revealed the results of a survey they did of Arizona voters across the political spectrum to say, what are your top issues? And guess what? Whether people are Republicans or Democrats or independents, people want investments in our public schools. They want more affordable housing. They want to make sure that people have bodily autonomy. They want to make sure that people have access to the ballot. All things that are all Democratic issues that we have submitted bills for, that we're ready to address, but we can't address them with the current majority. So that's where you all come in. We need your help. This is an all hands on deck moment. I know you're living overseas, but your vote matters in Arizona. We need every single one of those votes, and we need your donations to help make sure that we can get the word out to the folks in our community about what we stand for and that we are for them. So thank you so much for your time. Again, I'm Judy Schwiebert. I am running for re-election in Legislative District 2, one of the top 5 districts that could give us the new majority in 2022. Thank you.
Judy, thank you so much for coming back to us again. And Jean and Ava and Seth, just really amazing to hear you, to hear the issues that you're passionate about and that motivate you and that you're going to deal with once you get elected. If one of the goals of this call was to make sure that Arizona overseas voters understand why they need to get a full ballot and vote down ballot, I think you have made the case. Thank you so much. I also want to point out, as Theresa did earlier, Joe Biden won in Arizona by 10,000, I have the numbers written down somewhere, about 11,000 votes. The overseas vote in 2020 increased by 50% from 2016. So we went from somewhere around 11,000 to nearly 19,000, and we are overwhelmingly blue from overseas. So we take all credit for Joe Biden in Arizona. I know there's a whole bunch of other groups, and you're part of them, and for instance, the Navajo Nation that voted like never before. However, if a race is close, we can provide the margin. Overseas voters, like so many Democrats in 2020, did not vote down ballot. We really need to, and anybody who gets a full ballot, make sure that you vote all the way. And we don't want any Democrat losing by 0.6% of the vote ever again. That's on us. Most of my questions, or the questions that were submitted, you have already covered. So, you know, we do have, though, a little time if you wanted to say something else. Some of the questions I could throw out there is, what do you see as the greatest risk to your constituents, and how would you deal with it? How are you positioning yourselves as the more reasonable candidates? And most of us don't know who your Mark Fincham or Carrie Lakes are. So we know that actually it might not be that hard to look like the most reasonable one, but that's another of the questions that came in. And then you've talked about so many really, you know, important issues, but when you all win, when Katie Hobbs is sworn in as governor, what will be the most immediate legislative priority, and maybe what is the most lofty? So if any of those questions you have an answer to, then we're a small group. I think I can see all of you because I think Ava had to go. Then just wave your hand and go for it.
Well, I guess I will just mention, can you hear me?
Yes, go
Okay.
ahead.
I will just mention that my opponent has posters all over the district of him with Carrie Lake, advertising that he is a Carrie Lake endorsed candidate. And for those of you who are not familiar with Carrie Lake, she has built her entire campaign on the 2020 election. We need to decertify the 2020 election, that Donald Trump was the true winner. And it's all about revenge. It's all about division. It's not really about doing anything for the people of Arizona. It's really about serving Donald Trump. And I think I present a great contrast, as do my fellow candidates. I'm running to represent the people of my community and the state of Arizona and to fight for them. And that's what we are working to communicate all the time, and why your contributions to our campaign can help us get the word out about that.
All right. Thank you, Judy. Jeannie or Seth, would you like to answer one of those?
Jump in. Yeah, I'll jump in. In my district, it's not that hard to make the case that we're the more reasonable candidates. So there's two of us, Democrats, Lauren Austin and myself, running for the 2 House seats against 2 Republicans running for those 2 seats. One is the sister of Russell Pierce, who, for those of you that don't recognize the name, the Pierces are famous here in Arizona. Russell Pierce authored SB 1070. He was one of Arpaio's top lieutenants. He's the only recalled legislator, I think, in the last half century from this very district. But now he's back in another form with his sister. And the other one is even more extreme. Marianne Mendoza, she is not allowed on Facebook or Twitter because she posts anti-Semitic conspiracy theories. And these are the people we're running against here in Arizona. And the idea that these people will have any chance of holding public office is terrifying. And at this point, it really is a 50% chance for Democrats or Republicans.
Thank you, Seth. Jeannie, would you like to add something?
One of the questions that I heard was, what is the first legislation that you'd like to put forward? And as an educator, and while I was on the school board, my approach was always to lead with my values and lead with my most vulnerable students in mind. And so we started a supper program that supplemented our students' meals 4 days out of the week with free dinners, $1 to anybody over the age of 18. We started a bilingual preschool that served families far below the poverty line, and that's been in place now for, I want to say, 5 or 6 years. So we can already start to see the trajectory of those kids and the advantage that they'll have, not just now, but for the rest of their lives. And we started a family resource center. So for me, I've seen what happens when we have the whole child, whole family, whole community approach. And I would like to introduce legislation that provides universal pre-K for those who are living below the poverty line. I would like to connect our, adult learners with more learning opportunities through, because we have some really amazing trade unions out here that provide, kind of a secondary type of education, though it's not a traditional four-year degree. Some of these trade trade professions, the education is entirely free. And they will even go to our schools and our community colleges and partner and provide the instructors and the curriculum. So here's this wonderful opportunity that is surrounding us in Arizona that nobody has taken advantage of, or nobody has made that connection. So I would like to see that happen. And additionally, I mean, obviously, we need to fully fund our schools. We need to fully fund our schools, and not just K-12. We need to fully fund our community colleges, which we do not give any money to our community colleges. Why on earth don't we have two-year programs free? We had a $5 billion surplus this year, and instead we're giving tax breaks to the wealthiest Arizonans. Makes no sense to me. So I have a common good approach. And so that means from womb to tomb, we take care of every person in Arizona, and especially those who are the most vulnerable.
Thank you so much. Yeah, go ahead. Judy, did you want to add?
Yeah, can I just add one thing? I mean, I second everything that Seth and Jeannie both said. Just earlier today, I was in a conversation with somebody who had taken a tour of our prison, one of our prisons here in Arizona. Years ago, Republicans privatized our prison system, which, and there are minimums. So we have to have a certain number of incarcerated people to pay our private prison system, which seems like I can't even begin to say how much is wrong with that. But one of the things that they learned, they had interviews with some of the inmates there, and some of them would describe kind of the path of their life. And she said it became so apparent that what happened to so many of these people was that there were adverse childhood experiences, traumatic events that happened to them early on in their lives that just set them on the wrong path and eventually led to incarceration. So I've talked about we need legislation that's going to stop private prisons and really make them correctional organizations that can help people, give people back their lives. But the other thing that what Jeannie just said made me think of, early childhood education, funding all-day preschool, universal preschool, and all-day kindergarten. Those are things that can help set children on the right path, but we also need to be funding mental health services so that our children have mental health services available to them that will prevent incarcerations and create a more thriving economy for all of us.
Thank you. Thank you very much. This was a wonderful evening for all of us. Evening for us in Germany, morning for you, afternoon for other people. Some pundits or experts have said that in Arizona, actually, the Republicans gave us some gifts coming out of their primary by nominating only the worst of the worst. We know that maybe has added to your chances. Want to assure you that we are going to do everything we can from abroad to make sure that you get elected. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for considering your overseas constituents that you're talking to. Know too that you're talking to Americans way beyond your constituents that will be helping in Arizona. We are that out-of-state team that is really out of state. So thank you for your candidacies and for your life work. And now I'm turning this back over to the International Chair of Democrats Abroad, Jeannie Casteen.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much, Judy, and everyone for joining us. So glad that you could join us this evening. Thank you for joining. I don't know about you, but this was so energizing and has given me even more energy as we head into these final weeks ahead of the election. There are so many phenomenal candidates running up and down the ballot. And I'd like to extend my gratitude to every single one of them for joining tonight, as I mentioned, for taking an interest in their overseas constituents. As Katie and Jennifer mentioned, we are the margin of victory. Overseas voters have shown up in 2018, in 2020, and we have delivered those scale tipping votes in so many races. And as our fantastic candidates have said this evening, we know it's going to be close. The races are being determined by even slimmer margins. So please request your ballot as a starting point at votefromabroad.org, and then make sure that every single other person you know has requested their ballot, be that overseas, be that within the United States, in Arizona. We need everyone voting. And with that, I would just end with one other message, and that is to please view today's event as a starting point for your engagement leading up to November. We have a lot of volunteer opportunities with Democrats Abroad, as Katie and Theresa mentioned. We're phone banking battleground state voters who vote from abroad, like Arizonans. Plenty of opportunities for you to plug in there. We have the Alma Mater letter writing campaign. Maybe you'd like to write an op-ed to your hometown paper about the work that you are doing overseas. Spread the word. View tonight as your starting point to do every single thing that you can leading up to November 8th, so that when we wake up on November 9th, we're looking at Democratic majorities, not just in Washington, but in Arizona. So with that, I would like to thank, again, everyone for attending. The participants, thanks for tuning in and taking an interest. I'd like to thank Katie, Solon, and Evie Walls as the leaders of the Arizona State team for organizing tonight's event. Corey, Bartley, Theresa, thank you so much for your help with moderating questions. And to the candidates. So again, starting point right now through November 8th, join us at democratsabroad.org with volunteer donation opportunities. We are excited to have you on board. And more than that, we're excited to keep moving our country in the right direction on November 8th. With that, have a great rest of your day, everyone, and thanks for joining.